So, is this Jordan Poole production real? Is this development phase of his career real? Is what we're seeing real? Because if it is, the league is in trouble. Believe me, the league is in trouble because what we've been seeing the last couple nights, guys, is what I've expected. Since the preseason. When Jordan Poole was going crazy. What we're seeing now is, you know, a bigger version of Steph Curry. As controversial as that sounds, we're seeing a bigger, maybe not as efficient, but with that range and ability to attack the basket and that insane first step, he adds a completely different, dynamic to the Golden State Warriors offense, and somebody who they can build around, and who can be the Kawhi to what he was to the Spurs, Tim Duncan and Ginobili and Tony Parker. When they aged, he came in and he was able to prolong that dynasty, and I believe, Jordan Poole is about to do the same thing, I believe, and also the evidence and the data, supports that. If you look at the current situation that they're in now, they're in the part two of the dynasty, and so they're gonna need somebody to, young legs to carry them through the regular season, and to, be that, that new dynamic to the offense and add a different element to it, to where they now have a 6'4" guard who can, shoot from anywhere on the court, all three levels, and is a very maybe he limits them defensively, but what he does is he makes up for it offensively. Where to now, when Steph Curry's not on the court, they now have another guy who can they can rely on to get some offense going and to be consistent at it and to be explosive. He's shown the ability to be a microwave. To go off, to match or to replicate, Clay and Steph's ability to go off in a quarter, to go off for 10, 15 points in a quarter, to go for 3 threes in a minute. He has that as well, which makes the offense way more explosive, and it makes them, capable of matching the Brooklyn Nets, if they had to match up in the finals, or to put pressure, on the Los Angeles Lakers, who are not good at guarding, guards, or to match, Poole and, Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum in the backcourt, to match their dynamic ability in the backcourt. So he just takes, this team to a whole nother level, and he allows them, especially if James Wiseman coming back, that can be, their core going into the future, or with Kuminga, because I believe, having a ball handler is important. Your ball handler needs to be, your top two best players. If you're relying on, because the Golden State Warriors were planning on, relying on James Wiseman and building around a big man. But I believe now Jordan Poole is that piece where he is the future of the Golden State Warriors. He's going to be the future. Once Steph goes, he's going to. I believe right now we're in the process of watching, the torch, not being passed, but being, shared, and you can see it in the organization to where now everybody's confident in Jordan Poole now to now where Draymond Green gets the ball and he's looking for Jordan Poole. If Steph's not available, he's looking on the other side of the court. He now has that gravity to where Steph Curry is not being stretched or being relied upon or being having a boxing one defense played against him, which is a very gimmicky insane high school defense, to now where you have Jordan Poole on the outside of the court. And you have Steph on the other side to now where the defense has to pay attention to him, and to where now it allows Draymond to be even more dangerous. I believe, and when Klay Thompson does come back, it's going to be absolutely insane. The offense is going to be, I believe, one of the best, offenses of all time. Like right up there with the Brooklyn Nets, because we've never seen this before. We've never seen, this, especially Golden State in the first run. It was Klay and Steph. And then you had the system, the elite passing, finding the backdoor cuts, Sean Livingston off the bench, mid-range, Iguodala. But now you have that scorer to where in that Livingston position, Ian Clark, that Barbosa role, to where now you have three in one player, to where he's literally, Jordan Poole is literally Livingston, Ian Clark, and Barbosa in one person. To now what you have. But as a young player, and he has so much more room for growth, to where he's learning the game, and the next phase is where he's going to have to learn how to draw fouls and how to get to the rim and how to, slow the game down and be consistent, doing what he does best. Because, sometimes he does get a bit irrational, he does get a bit, turnover V, which is kind of a common theme for the team, to where he sometimes plays into that, and it ends up into turnovers or fast break points for the other team. But, he's definitely learned learned a lot from his mistakes in the past, and he's applying it. And everyone knows in this organization, he is the hardest worker. He puts in the work, and you can see it day in and day out. He's picking up off Steph Curry, adding his own element to it. Because he's a much better athlete than Steph Curry. As we know, he can get above the rim a bit. With what we've seen. In the beginning of the year, he's able to do that, and also be, he's an improving defender, very improving. His spatial awareness, his instincts, his ability to read the passing lanes and to knowing when to double, when to trap, when to rotate, running guys off the 3-point line. He's very improved in that dynamic, and as shocking as it sounds, him and Steph Curry have a top 10 in defensive rating in the entire NBA, and Golden State Warriors are now the number one defense. So now the weakness that everybody said they would have with Jordan Poole and Steph Curry in the backcourt is not as glaring, as well as they also have elite defense behind them. With Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala, Andrew Wiggins, some of the best guard and wing defenders in the entire NBA. And when James Wiseman comes back, it's going to allow Jordan Poole to take his game to the next level, and to where he's going to bring another element to the game, to where now they have the ability to gamble, because they're gonna have a 7'1" guy coming back, which is also gonna help Wiseman, the pick and rolls and the ability to open up his playmaking bag a little bit more, and to where they're able to run different sets. But also Gary Payton, the third, coming in, has also added another element of where he's a big Bruce Brown type of player, to where Jordan Poole is going to be able to play off him and to allow him to take the point guard matchups, the Ja Morants and the other players like that. But yeah, the rest of the season, Jordan Poole, he's on course to honestly be in the most improved player race, with Tyler Hero, or Carmelo Anthony winning it again, surprisingly, which I think is a very hot take. But yeah, I think the two boys from Milwaukee are going to fight for that award. They're playing the exact a very similar role for two type contenders, two veteran heavy teams. But yeah, I think Jordan Poole this season, if he continues like this, we could end up seeing a situation to where Klay Thompson is coming back and is going to be forced into that Manu Ginobili role, which I've predicted, and I've said, coming off 3.5 years of not playing, is it, if the team's rolling and they're 45-10 or whatever the record is at the time, whether they have a significant winning record, it may ruin the momentum and the spirit. So Klay Thompson anyway is going to be on a minute restriction when he comes back, so he may not even start anyway. This may be, we saw this with Draymond Green in the second year when they won the title. David Lee gets injured, Draymond Green takes the starting spot, and David Lee is restricted to the bench, and that's how it went. At the time it was very controversial, with David Lee having been a former All-Star. But this may be the best way forward, to have Klay Thompson in that Manu Ginobili role, closing games and, letting Jordan Poole and Steph start the game and mixing up the lineups, because I think Jordan Poole is going to be the future of the franchise. And, whether he starts now or starts later, we'll see. But, obviously politics and, the salaries plays a part. But if they want to keep Jordan Poole, they have to build around him, because he is going to be the torchbearer. He's going to take that torch from Steph Curry and lead the Golden State Warriors into the future. And what we've been seeing in the first opening games, especially the last couple of games, he's coming on and he's showing that the 3-point range, the ability to shoot from half court. If he shows that consistently over the next month or so, that starting spot could be his permanently. But we're gonna have to see on that part, and see what happens over the course of time. Whether this holds up and whether this form holds up, and whether Klay Thompson is the same, or whether he's not as good as a defender and still an elite shooter. We'll see what happens, because you never know what's going to happen with these injuries and how guys come back, especially with KD coming back. But yeah, I think it would all depend on Klay Thompson and how he responds to the injury and how he returns. I have a very big belief in him, because he's a very confident guy.